Welcome to the Florida State Podcast of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, where we showcase student entrepreneurs to learn about the startups they are working on, check in with alumni to hear about the companies they are building, and learn from seasoned entrepreneurs who have built amazing companies. Hosted by Mark McNees, a serial entrepreneur who has started for-profits, nonprofits, social impact companies, and is currently entrepreneur in residence at the Jim Moran School of Entrepreneurship.
Today we are going to be chatting with 3 Jim Moran School of Entrepreneurship students who had internships this summer. I want to introduce to you Ashley Rosado, Joe Alvarez, and Elise Dorito. Can each one of you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, let our audience know what your major is, what's been your favorite class at Jim Moran School so far? Ashley?
Yeah, so I'm Ashley Rosado, as Mark mentioned. I'm a junior, double majoring in social entrepreneurship and creative writing. My favorite class that I've taken so far was last semester. It was with Bruce Manciagli, and it was a human-centered design class because we got to work with a community partner in the Tallahassee community, which was the Oasis Center for Women and Girls. And being able to go through the human-centered design and design thinking process was really fulfilling.
Awesome. Joe?
So, as Mark mentioned, my name is Joe Alvarez. I am a double major in political science and commercial entrepreneurship. Over the summer, I interned with the Department of Children and Families, Office of the General Counsel. My favorite Jim Moran class has to be Experience with Entrepreneurship with John Bree. Just sort of meeting John for the first time and getting to learn with him and experience what growing and failing has been like truly eye-opening overall throughout the school.
What did you start in the experience class?
I started first off a modification for rollerblades, but then it transitioned into a company with reversible Hawaiian t-shirts.
Very, very cool. And Elise?
Hi, my name is Elise Dorito. I'm also a commercial entrepreneurship student with a minor in communications. My favorite class so far, probably one John Breed's class. It was just awesome getting to meet someone with so much energy and so much passion for just the idea of being an entrepreneur. It's motivating being around somebody that has that kind of fire, and you can ask questions and bounce off each other with no judgment. Like really being around somebody who's had the experience that you're looking for has been an awesome experience.
Well, fantastic. So let's just stay with you, Elise. What company did you intern with this summer?
I went upstate to New York at Swim USA. They do private label swimwear supplying for companies like Target, Walmart, and then big box like department stores, actually mostly Macy's, Kohl's, JCPenney. So it's been really cool getting to experience the whole world of fashion that I hadn't been introduced to yet.
Okay, and what did you do specifically in your internship?
I worked under the vice president and president of the junior kids division. So I actually got to design and help them create lines for girls my own age, which was super awesome. Being from the coast of Florida, bikinis, bathing suits, like I love that, I'm into that. Like I really felt like I could contribute something.
Okay, that's very, very cool. Joe?
As I mentioned before, I interned with the Office of the General Counsel. They're based here in Tallahassee. I work mainly with the Department of Children and Families, working with them on negligence cases, contract work, and trying to find different ways that we could inform the Secretary of State how policy should be made, what ways we could improve connecting those that were children who were affected by negligence, and those kind of ways to connect them with families and guardian ad litems and stuff of that nature.
Great. And Ash?
I worked at 500 Startups Miami, which is just one location of over 20 of the most active global venture capital firm, which is 500 Startups. The kind of things I did there were very interesting. I got to create my own experience because I was one of 2 interns that they've ever had. But I did a lot more on the marketing side, like marketing kits, utilizing creative writing, and then like logistics for the boot camps that they operate over the summer.
Outstanding. So how do you feel your internships, or do you feel that your internships help prepare you for post-graduation in your career? Was this a great experience where you're like, wow, this really helped prepare me, or maybe not so much? Elise?
Personally, I was nervous. Thinking about post-grad, it's nerve-wracking thinking, okay, what now? What comes next?
Absolutely.
So any internship, but specifically one in fashion, was something that it's almost calming, knowing how the real world works. It's not as scary as you think it is. Like there's the people I was with, I was fortunate enough that they were amazing, like so helpful, so encouraging, so supportive. Like you don't really hear about bosses like that, and it was really awesome to be able to experience the real world, especially in New York, with such like a positive team. It's calming.
Okay, calming, cool. And Joe?
Yeah, to add to that, I mean, those people that you work with and sort of like network with, they are, in essential, they become part of your network, whether that comes in the form of getting a recommendation letter for post-grad school or just people that you want to work with in the future when they hear that you finally graduated and everything like that. It comes in job offers, recommendation letters, also people that become your friends. I mean, most of my coworkers I interned with, since we're all based out of Tallahassee here, we kind of just meet together now and we go out for drinks, discuss business as we can at that extent.
Oh, nice. And Ash?
I think it definitely helped prepare me. I kind of did an internship that was completely out of my element, like working in the tech and for-profit field versus like being a social entrepreneurship major. So getting to see that side of it really informed like what is going to be the rest of my academic experience. And just taking advantage of, like they said, the people that you're working with, learning from their job positions, the path that they took, it helped me decide like, okay, this is what I'm going to do post-graduation and hopefully to get this job in the future.
Right. So all three of these seem like very high quality internships. You weren't just getting executives coffee, and you were actually doing like real important work, it sounds like. That's really, really cool. What was the process for each one of you getting your internship? We'll start with you, Ash.
Yeah, so my internship actually started as a fellowship. It was a Tech Fellows program in the CRE, which is like our Center for Undergraduate Research on campus. And the program specifically is for CARE students who are first generation low income to get them, to get underserved entrepreneurs into accelerators and incubators in Florida. So originally I had to apply fall semester just to be a part of that program. And then I had to interview with the 5 incubators that they have. So it's definitely a very intense process and you do have to apply early, which is advice I would give to people. And then going through interviews, it was mostly after that, once I was selected, just like onboarding, like how am I going to prepare myself to move to a new city, where am I going to live, and all of those things.
Wow. Joe?
So for me, I was mainly recommended by my grandfather who knew the general counsel at the time. I had to meet with his secretary at first, be interviewed by her. 2 weeks later, I was interviewed by the general counsel himself at the office. And from there, it sort of just 2 weeks later, I got my approval. And I mean, from there on, it was the rest is history. I sort of just joined the organization and I showed out that I was skilled enough to be able and was just as good as any other law student intern.
Excellent. Elise?
For me, it was also connections. Mr. McLaughlin had relations with the president of the junior kids division, put me in touch with her. Like, they're not family related, but like family. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to get to work under her directly because of him. And it was an awesome experience. We chatted back and forth, had a couple phone calls, and basically headed up there for the summer, met her in person. We hit it off great, and I'm just really lucky.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you mentioned Mr. Mack. What was it like working with Mr. Mack on the academic side? Anybody?
He's a rock star.
He is a rock star.
As he tells us.
Yeah. I went, actually, when I went up to New York, a couple other people at Swim USA had come from Florida State, so they knew of Mr. Mack, and I mentioned knowing Mr. Mack or coming here through him, and they were like, we know him. He's the best recruiter. He's this, he's that. Like, talk so highly of him as if he's a national rock star. I'm like, I'm proud.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think he did a lot of like pre-steps to make sure we were prepared for the internship. And for me, at least, he was very flexible in the fact that mine was more like a fellowship and there was a research element involved, which isn't like traditional of a lot of internships. But he supported me throughout the whole thing and obviously throughout the process as well.
What were some of the pre-steps?
We had like applications and like company overviews that we had to fill out, but even before you got to that step, just being able to walk into his office and meet with him and chat through, these are my interests, maybe I want to go abroad or I want this to be paid. And he was very flexible with that. And he pulls out documents like that of there's all the different companies that he knows. And I think it motivated me to do a lot of research for the kind of internship I wanted because he was doing the research for us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you all can speak to that as well.
Yeah. So for me, over the summer, some of the assignments he had us do kind of forced us to step out of our comfort zone and get more involved inside the offices we were working at, like to meet everybody within the office, find your direct supervisor and the person that they report to, sort of build like an actual hierarchy of the internship program or the company you were working for. Sort of brought us out of at least my comfort zone because I sort of met all the different attorneys that were working, understood the entire Department of Children and Families organization by the time I left at the end of my internship. Also, I had Mr. Mack visit my office since we were based here locally in Tallahassee, which was super cool because watching him interact with everybody, realizing that it's not just us and the students, it's also him meeting everybody and growing his connective base so that it can be a future asset for like future Jim Moran students.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Elise.
Just reminds me of something else that happened on my second day of work. We had a buyer's meeting that I sat in on. I was helping the model and, taking notes and and whatnot. It was for Dillard's, and so Miss Alexander Dillard herself came in. She sat down, she talked, and her and I got to going back and forth. And Mr. Mack comes back up again, and she goes, "I know him. I heard he's an awesome recruiter. Tell him to send me girls from Florida, get me in touch with him." And it was just so funny seeing how small the world really is.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen somebody work as hard as Mr. Mack for to give students opportunity. He works tirelessly, and it's kind of cool that you guys like realize how much he cares about you guys and just the internship program. So, in your opinion, Joe, you said like some of Mr. Mack's assignments stretched you.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like that's a good thing, right?
Absolutely. No.
So do you think having a required internship as part of your degree program and the academic side and having somebody like Mr. Mack who's going to stretch you, do you think that enhanced your internship experience?
I mean, extremely so. As both me and Elise and Ash have all mentioned already, I mean, the positive effects of an internship are by far the networking, the opportunities that can come afterwards. But having someone like Mr. Mack be able to push you and sort of develop that further than just you just constantly report to your direct supervisor, and by the time the 9 weeks are over, that's all you know. I mean, having someone like Mr. Mack give you assignments to do your own research project, do your own type of hierarchy, and figure out who everyone in the office you're working with just adds a whole new aspect and a whole new positive side to an internship.
I think it's very supportive in terms of like scoping the internships, having someone like Mr. Mack, because different students have different needs and some may not be able to travel across the country for an internship. Some might need it to be paid, or they may need to have a job on the side as well. So being able to gauge like what a student really needs, what their capacity is, and find the right internship for them is really important, because we all have 3 completely different internships in 3 different places, and I think that's important to have someone like supporting you through that process and not just saying, hey, go to the career fair and find an internship and not have anyone supporting you through the process.
Nice.
Yeah, Mr. Mack we'd email back and forth, of course, over the summer, and he'd always bring up really interesting points, like questions to ask, or he'd say like, I know you're upstate, like you should go down the street and talk to this company. You should do this while you're here. Like always encouraging, always giving me more tasks to do to better my experience.
Right. So there's paid internships, there's fellowships, as Ash mentioned. There's also unpaid internships. Were your guys paid, unpaid? How did it work out?
Mine, we got a stipend of $5,000 for the summer, but that wasn't including any housing or anything like that. So basically you got the money, you had to find the accommodations and make it last through the 10 weeks of the internship.
Okay. How hard was it to find the housing?
In Miami, it is pretty difficult to find housing, at least affordable housing. I was able to actually live by myself though for the first time, so that was also like there's a lot of growing elements about having an internship, and that was like one of the most like life-changing ones. But honestly, Facebook, using your resources, I was able to find it pretty quickly.
Did you like living on your own?
I enjoyed living on my own. I don't know if I could do it long term, but for the summer, I think it really helped inform the experience that I was having because I was trying to be very independent in the city.
Cool. Joe?
I was an unpaid intern. It came with contingencies. We negotiated that overall with when I met the general counsel for the first time, but I was an unpaid intern with technicality that I get a recommendation letter for law school.
All right. Did you get the recommendation letter?
I did.
All right.
All set to go.
Outstanding. Well, sometimes that's better than money.
Yep.
So, and Elise?
I was a paid intern. It was super. Everything worked out so well. I actually lived in a dorm, which at first my thoughts were, okay, like random roommate in a new city, like how's this gonna go? And we got along great, but by chance, girls that I had known from high school were living upstairs from me, and a boy from Florida State who was interning with the digital media company was on the other floor across from me, and I ended up making some best friends that are coming to visit me in 2 weeks.
Oh, how cool is that?
Super
awesome.
cool.
That's very, very cool. Were you guys, I think Joe mentioned about network and expanding your network. Is that true for all of you? Elise, Ash, do you feel like your network got expanded through this experience?
Definitely. I still keep in touch with my boss and the vice president and one of the girls that had come from Florida State that now works for Swim USA. We text back and forth and talk about coming back up to visit and, doing little projects and assignments to keep helping them with what I was working on when I left. Because it was enjoyable, honestly. It got to the point where work was more fun because I felt like I could really contribute.
Great. What campus, were you on a campus dorm? Or
FIT.
FIT, so you're, okay, very cool. And the company set that up for you?
No, I found it on my own because they release the dorms to non-students during summer as part of the whole, they know interns are coming, and so they let us live there not being students of FIT.
Okay, nice. Nash?
Yeah, definitely networking was probably in the top 3 things that I took out of my internship. Working in an accelerator space is really interesting because not only was I learning from the company, but from the startups that were in the space too. They would come and work out of the co-working area. And with my supervisor, I kind of made weekly goals with her too in terms of like my personal reading.
The top 3 things that you got out of your internship, what was the best thing that you got out of your internship?
I think direction, if that makes sense. Like,
no, it does.
Being able to take feedback that was constructive from my supervisors. At first, I didn't think I would be that well with taking feedback, but they were able to do it in a great way. Direction in terms of what I want to do post-grad, because I really went in with the idea of like, they asked me on the first day, like, what do you want to do so we can tailor your experience to that? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, that's why I'm here. But now I have like a better idea of that, better idea of the companies I want to work with. And I came back this semester, even changed some of my campus involvement to better tailor what my new interests were after the experience.
Was it helpful being were you an incubator or accelerator?
An accelerator.
Being an accelerator and like learning about entrepreneurship here at school and then actually seeing it in action?
Yeah, it definitely was. Coursework is one thing, and the Jim Moran School does a great job at making sure we have hands-on experience, but nothing will like compare to actually talking to people who own startups. And there was actually a startup who was kind of creating a new social media outlet, and they were not necessarily in my generation. So they pitched their idea to me, and I kind of was able to come up with like, have you thought about this? Or no, this is what people are using now, not that. And like it informed their research. So being able to see like how the process is very flexible as a startup, seeing while I was there, one of the companies got like their investors, like they got VC funding while I was there, and we were able to celebrate
cool.
it.
Yeah.
So it was like being able to see it was really cool.
Nice. Elise? The best thing, the best takeaway or the best thing about the internship for you?
It's kind of hard to pick. Mm-hmm. I'd say while learning about an industry I hadn't previously had experience in was awesome, because it's kind of coming into a blank slate. You don't know what to expect. You don't know like, oh, am I going to do well? Am I going to fit well? Like, what if I'm not good? Mm-hmm. But I was lucky to have bosses that are so eager to teach me. They're so ask me questions. Like, if you need to know anything, they take their time, they explain. And I think the best part really was the people, because fashion, it was amazing. I loved it more than I thought I would. but it was being around people that wanted to help you learn. It was just really encouraging, thinking, you know, I can get out in the world, and if I want to do something, like maybe I did an intern in fashion, but I want to go to digital marketing. Like, it's kind of a confidence, I think, was the best thing I got out of it.
Okay, so gaining confidence. And Joe?
If it's not the networking, it's just the real world experience. I'm taking my second LSAT later in October. Just to have those new coworkers that have all taken the LSAT before, gone through law school, having their feedback come back to me, them giving me some of their old notebooks that they took before they took the LSAT and the bar exam, is just, there's no price tag on that. Like, lawyers will tell you that you have to pay thousands of dollars to pay for that. I got it all for free, so there is no price tag, and just their friendships and advice is just priceless to me in my eyes.
Nice. So, for students who haven't taken an internship yet and they're apprehensive about taking an internship, what advice would you give them?
Just go for it.
Yeah, it's
like, there's nothing to lose from doing it, regardless of the fact that if you're told no, like, is your application gets turned down. There are dozens, if not hundreds of thousands of companies that are looking for interns, looking for any student, regardless of, they're the Jim Moran School, which prepares you immensely for being able to take an internship, but there's plenty of opportunities across FSU and across the United States, wherever you live, in order to get you an internship, and the upside is so much more worth it than just being told no a couple times.
Great. Elise or Ash?
I'd say don't pass anything over. Like, don't say, oh, I haven't had experience in this field, I wouldn't be good for it, or I don't know much about this, like I can't pick that. Like, an internship is meant to teach you and meant to kind of drive you, help you find a direction. So if there's something that even remotely interests you, don't hold back. Try it. Just give it a try. Maybe you'll love it.
Yeah, to go off of Elise, like, you know, giving up one of your summers can really, like, change the path for you post-graduation for a long time. And I think there are very limited ways to get hands-on experience outside of an internship. So it's worth trying something new. It's worth traveling to a new place, because your schedule's most likely not going to be that flexible once you're in a career.
Great. Well, all of you mentioned that it seems like your internship impacted your future. So let's end with this. What's next for each of you, and what do you want to do after graduation? Anybody can jump in. Elise.
The big question, isn't it? Considering grad school, personally.
Okay.
If not, I think I would try to get more experience in the fashion industry, however that may come to me, opportunity-wise.
Great.
Taking my LSAT again, as I previously mentioned, going to law school for 3 years, whether that be Florida State or another type of school in another state. After that, go practice law, whether that be corporate, business, contract. That's still up in the air.
Okay, and Ash, we'll finish with you.
After my internship, I got really interested in tech, so I'm trying to see how to incorporate that. I still have 2 years left at FSU, so I'm definitely, I'm starting like Design for America, which is a design thinking chapter at Florida State for students. But post-graduation, I also am thinking about going to law school, but doing a joint MBA program, and hopefully doing something in corporate responsibility in the long run. Yeah.
We have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. So, well, thank you all for coming in and sharing your internship experience with us.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Florida State podcast of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. If you would like to be notified of new episodes, please subscribe via your favorite player. Also, if you like the podcast, please take the time to share it on social media, give it a 5-star rating, and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you enjoy your podcasts. This will help us get the word out to other entrepreneurs that the FSU Entrepreneurship Podcast has been launched.